meeting, we have a posted meeting, so I'll just do that formality. But basically, I want to thank everyone for coming, and I'm going to just about turn it over to Aaron. Aaron was the lead selectman on the Police Building Commission, and so he'll do the introductions and give you a nice format. But thank you all for that. So here's Aaron.
Thanks, John. Okay, so I'll open the police station building committee as we have a forum present as well. I want to thank everybody for coming tonight. This is an exciting evening. We're having an opportunity to show you a presentation on the project as we have it designed at this point. My name is Aaron Burke. I'm on the Board of Selectmen. Rich LaCAM is here tonight. He's on the building committee with me. Chief Avalier is here, obviously, up front next to Selectman Powderly. Taylor McDonald and
Brian Humes.
Brian Humes. Well, Taylor McDonald, I was going to skip and talk about Rick Pomeroy. Taylor McDonald and Rick Pomeroy are our project managers, so they represent the town in relation to the project, so they oversee everything. And when we get started in this process, we learned that that's a requirement when you're building a building. You have to hire somebody to look out for your best interest, and that's what they're doing. Through that process, we hired an architect, and that is Brian Humes from Jakunski Humes. Brian in particular just does police stations, so he's a wonderful architect. We're really, really fortunate to be working with him. Tim LaChapelle is also on the building committee. And geez, it's been so long I don't recognize you. Are you back for good now?
Until October.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks for coming. So tonight is about showing you this presentation. That process is going to take, I don't know, what, half hour, 45 minutes?
Yeah, if that. Yeah.
Then we're going to open it up for questions. So if you have questions, please hold them until the end, and we'll get to everybody and make sure everybody's questions get answered. So this time I'll turn it over to you guys.
Great. We like to work informally, so if you don't mind, I'm going to sit here, and I think Brian and Rick are going to do the same. We'll give our presentation that way. I'm glad everybody could be here tonight. Obviously, we're here to talk about the new police station and moving forward with that. I know it's been a long time coming, even before we were brought on, but I don't want to get into that. I want to kind of start fresh from when we were hired to where we are now. So that's what I'll do at the beginning, is just give a brief history update. We've actually been moving at a pretty good clip here. For most projects, this has been a fast-paced project so far. In October of 2016, that's when Pomeroy Associates was hired. We had our first kickoff meeting. I think it was a week later after we were hired in October of 2016. By then, we got our RFQ out for the interviews for architects. We interviewed 4 architects, and we decided to hire Jakunski Humes. Brian Humes is sitting here on my left. In January of 2017, Jakunski Humes was under contract. The same month, we had our kickoff meeting with Brian. And the same month, Brian started his programming with the police department. And that programming lasted about 2 to 3 weeks of intense interviewing and going through the building space by space to make sure it was going to be the right design for the department. In March of 2017, our schematic design and site evaluation was completed by Jakunski Humes. Again, we'll get into that as we go further through the presentation. And then once we had our schematic design and site done, we were able to put it out for a cost estimate, and that was sent out to a professional cost estimator, KB Associates out of Boston. In May of 2017, we had a presentation to the Board of Selectmen and the Finance Committee. We're obviously here today. On May 17th, the debt exclusion is on June 6th, and the town meeting will be on June 12th. So if you're not familiar with the Lakeville Police Station.
Does anybody mind if I turn off the lights for a moment so we can see this?
I'm sure everybody is, but The building was not intended to be a police station. It's been through many iterations. I guess it was even a pub at one point. So the setup and configuration is definitely not conducive to police operations. It's insufficient, inadequate, and again, it lacks for today's policing operations. It's not code compliant. The roof leaks every time it rains. It's caving in some areas. It's rotting on the exterior, and there's many safety hazards and, again, code issues as you go through the building. There's just a few more pictures. On your far left, you have an area where every time it rains, there's major leaking there. There's outdated and piecemealed electrical systems. This is pretty much typical for the entire building. The mechanical, electrical, and plumbing systems are piecemealed back together. As something breaks, it's fixed. There's no fluidity with the systems that are in place now. The bathrooms itself are just old and need replacement. The floors are coming up. The picture of the toilet there is actually, that's clean water. The water that comes into the station is not drinkable, and everything is stained from the water that comes into the facility. Again, on your far left, some issues with leaking. The ceiling tiles are caving in. What ones that are staying in the ceiling are starting to cave in. Most of them have fallen out of the ceiling. We have some electrical issues at the main panel there. There's old wiring that no one knows where it goes to, overloaded wiring. And then rooms that are forced to meet needs. This is serving as a little kitchenette, this little square corner of a room there with a refrigerator and a microwave. So space has definitely outweighed itself here for the police station. Again, the plumbing systems are just outdated and need to be completely redone. Storage issues. Here's some boxes that are stored, I believe, in the female bathroom right now because there's no other places for the equipment to go. If you Google the Lakeville Police Station, other than the Lakeville Police Station website that pops up, a number of articles pop up about the major issues at this station. This is just one of the current articles that came up. I think it was from the early 2000s. But really what it talks about is rodent infestation, bees and insects that have made homes in the eaves. Again, the leaking, everything is outdated, not code compliant. When they bring prisoners in, they're not doing it the way that it should be done according to today's standards. It's just an outdated facility that needs to be replaced. And with that, I'm going to let Brian talk about kind of our next phase after we did our programming, or this is about our programming actually, and he'll describe that process.
Thank you. As Taylor mentioned, I'm Brian Humes from Jakunski Humes Architects. I'm going to just move a little closer to you because I want everybody to hear everything that I'm trying to convey. So I think it might be helpful if I'm just moving a little bit closer. The process that we've been undertaking with the Lakeville Police Department has been a systematic approach, and it included 4 components. The first thing we did was we conducted a space needs assessment. Then we had a site evaluation to see where the building was being proposed on the site. We prepared schematic plans and documents for a building on that site, and we conducted a professional cost estimate on the solution. All along the way, we were informing the building committee and the OPMs of what the anticipated cost of the project would be based on all of the information that we were gathering. The first thing, as I mentioned, the first thing we did was this space needs assessment. The space needs assessment is very critical that this is done professionally and done correctly, because if it's in the space needs assessment, it should be in the final solution. If it's not in the space needs assessment, you're not going to see it on the floor plan. It's important that this document illustrates needs and tries to eliminate wants and nice to haves and frills and things that might be good but maybe not affordable. So this was stressed, and we did have access to not only the chief of police in performing this space needs assessment, but the chief gave us access to other staff members so we could also talk to them. So it was a collaborative effort. It was not just me coming in and saying, this is what you need. It was me coming in and using our experience in police facility design and trying to help and assist Lakeville Police Department to come up with what their need and what their solution was to be. So this document's 23 pages long, but it goes into detail about all of the components that the department feels are critical going forward. This document also anticipates growth. So if you're going to build a facility for today, the towns that we work in want to know that that facility is not only going to be good for today, but it's going to be good for at least 20 years. We say at least 20 years because that's typically how long the towns are paying off the bonds and paying off the debt service. At least 20 years. So we look at growth in population, we look at crime statistics, we look at vehicle counts, we look at personnel statistics. We not only want to know if the department is going to grow, but where, in what level. Is it going to be dispatching? Changes in dispatching? Some of these things are discussed and then incorporated into the space needs assessment. So this does have growth potential for at least 20 years. And in my opinion, this facility that we have designed could very well be the last facility that Lakeville has to build. Why do I say that? I say that because Lakeville's only so big in land area. You're going to only find so much population expansion, and that's where you're going to find growth expansion in the department. So I feel that this is more than a 20-year facility that we're looking to build and what we've proposed for your community. We've also compared square footages of what we're proposing to square footages of what's existing. I've done over 80 police facilities in my career. Whenever we walk into a community and they've asked for our assistance, we usually don't see a good picture when we walk into the existing facility. The same holds true for Lakeville. The Lakeville Police Department, after doing police facilities for 30 years, you would just hope that those conditions no longer exist. But they do. In Lakeville, they exist. The conditions are really substandard. What they're working in, if you experience it, if you go see it, I think you'd be surprised at what they put up with every day. Most of the departments we work with, and Lakeville is no different, they do their job. They go out and service the public. And they've been doing it in that facility for a number of years, quite some time. But in my opinion, I don't think that should be a condition that continues. And I think that's why we were brought on board to assist on what the solution could be. So let me go into some of that solution. If you're going to look, and you can't really, I understand you can't really see that from where you're sitting, but let me give you a conclusion. The conclusion of my space needs assessment was a facility of about 11,300 square feet. Now that compares to a facility right now, which is 5,784 square feet. So if you're looking at square footage and you're just comparing square footages, we're projecting a need of about 2 times current space. Now you might wonder, why do we need 2 times current space? And some of this, and all of those answers are in the space needs assessment. One of the reasons why you need 2 times current space is because the space they have right now is substandard and too small, and the offices are too small, and so the offices are brought up to a better standard of office space. 2, the conditions that they're in, they're having to use spaces for double duty, triple duty. They're using a kitchen right now as their communication equipment room. Is in their kitchen. So now we need 2 spaces. So that increases square footage. But we're also trying to implement some of the programs and directives that the police department would like to incorporate but have no space to do it. They'd like a larger community meeting room for police training. They would like to make this facility more inviting for the public so they can invite folks in and host events. This is part of a community policing effort that's not just happening in Lakeville, but it's happening throughout the country. So these are not new tactics or programs. These are programs that they really can't effectively do at the current facility. So the staffing levels are brought up from a department staffing of, currently there is 18 sworn officers, and future growth is looking to be at 23 sworn officers. So you look at the growth 18 to 23. That's not dramatic over 20 years. The reason why we're looking at 2 times current space really does not have a lot to do with department growth. 18 to possibly going to 23. When that happens, we see that as probably a 20-year event. So the growth in square footage is not necessarily all directed toward toward staffing increases. One of the things that we did look at was 5 full-time dispatchers going to 10 full-time dispatchers. Why? Because the department is looking on to taking on central dispatch for Lakeville. It's something that other municipalities have done. It's worked successfully. It's something that this facility is now planning to do. When that happens, the building will be ready to accommodate that. But central dispatching is something that is increasing the staffing level for dispatchers. And you're still maintaining 6 reserve officers and 6, they call them specials. Those are officers that come in and assist the sworn officers to perform certain duties. They need locker space. They need some of the functions that are within this facility to support the reserves and to support the special officers. That is also built into the space needs assessment. So all of these things have been looked at. They've been looked at by the department. This document has gone through an approval process of the department, and then this document went to the building committee. And the building committee vetted this document and wanted to make sure everything that was in it was understood, everything that was in it, they identified as a need, and everything in it they could support going forward. So it was from this document that we then went and looked at the site. The site is a site right along Bedford Street. Bedford Street is the street at the bottom of the plan. And there's an entrance at this location. That's the entrance to the Ted Williams Park. The area that you see developed is currently wooded lot. And to the top of the site, in this area, is where the parking exists for the ballpark, for the ball fields. This facility, where it's being proposed, has no impact on the parking at the ball fields. And what this facility will do is share an entrance location off of Bedford. It will share the entrance location with the park. Coming off of Bedford, there will be a left turn into a public parking area. That public parking area is there to support the facility. It's there to support any community meetings that are happening in the meeting room. But we also recognize that public parking could also support the ball fields. It's another 19 spaces that could support public parking that happens at the ball field. The rest of the parking that you see on the site is to the top of the plan, and that would be restricted access. That's parking for staff vehicles, and that's parking that's limited access. So that would be off limits to public parking. The building, we have a building that stretches out east to west along Bedford. And that building is 11,700 square feet. And we have a second structure that's shown on the plan. The second structure is it's really a barn structure. It's serving two purposes. One is it's sheltering 10 vehicles. And that shelter for 10 vehicles is for the fleet vehicles of the department. we can get 10 vehicles undercover. And why are we putting vehicles undercover? A couple reasons. If we put the main fleet vehicles undercover, it typically has been a request in the winter time so the snow and ice doesn't gather on the vehicles. Because if the vehicles are sitting in the station for shift change or for any length of time in bad weather and there's a response need, the first thing the officers would have to do is go out and clean the vehicle off. Well, that slows down response time. So a lot of departments are looking to shelter their fleet vehicles. Now that's the wintertime concern. But also, what's happening with these vehicles is you're putting more and more electronics into those cruisers. The electronics have computers, they have monitors, they have a lot of things that go in there that's very temperature sensitive. So if you put all of your investment into putting the technology into the cars, and then sit the car out in the parking lot with the windows up in the summer heat, that cabin temperature can get too excessive for all the technology that you're putting in. So you're really wanting to shelter those vehicles. When the cruisers are running, yes, there's temperature control within the cabins. But the officers cannot bring those vehicles back here and park them and leave the windows down. Not with what's inside them, not with what that vehicle is meant for. The vehicles do not sit there with the windows down. The windows need to be up, the vehicles stop. So we want to control cabin temperatures. So that's one of the functions of this, what we call outbuilding, and then the rest of the building is there for storage. And we'll get into why we propose that as a storage outbuilding. So we have entrance off of Bedford, public parking, staff parking, main building, outbuilding, and then we have another curb cut onto Bedford Street. And that secondary curb cut is for exiting vehicles only and exiting emergency vehicles only. There's no public access off of Bedford at the second curb cut. There's no vehicles returning to the facility off of Bedford. When emergency vehicles return to the station, it's always at a slow pace. They're not rushing to get back to the station. They're rushing sometimes to leave the station. And there's a potential at the main curb cut, there's a potential that there could be vehicles queuing to exit. There could be a line of vehicles. If it's a busy day in the park, there could be a line of vehicles. So we've given the police department an alternative method to get off the site, get onto Bedford, and respond without having to go through the queuing, that's the potential queuing that's happening at the intersection of Bedford and the park entrance. So that's what this second curb cut is achieving for the fleet vehicles, primarily which are undercover, then to exit the site and exit back onto Bedford. The site is a very good, clean site to develop. We rarely see a site that's really as pristine. It is wooded right now, but it's a level site. It's a very good site to develop, and we don't see any difficulties with accomplishing this. The land area that was available was more than adequate. Actually, we're not using the entire parcel that was given to us for consideration. Some of the parcel could be remain as trees.
Moving on to the floor plan, we broke this up into two parts so Brian can walk you through that. I'm actually going to go forward and start with section B because that's the front entrance side, and we'll walk you through the entire station.
What you're seeing is the main facility, but this is only half of the main floor plan. And I wanted to walk you through and just kind of give you an idea of what's where. This is oriented, again, east-west. The public entrance is coming in off of the public parking that's adjacent to the park entrance, and coming across a covered entry into a vestibule, direct access into the public lobby. That only makes sense. Public would have access directly into a public lobby. But there are other functions that the public have access to once they get to the lobby. They'll have access to public restrooms. And you might think that's a small thing, but this facility is being planned to be open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. The front door doesn't close, the front door doesn't lock. If you're going down Bedford Street, the lights are going to be on in this facility. And knowing that this is a facility for the Lakeville Police Department, it's not just a facility for residents. So you have to think about out-of-towners, you have to think about people coming off the interstate, people wanting directions, people wanting a restroom. And this could be at all times of the night or any time, any day. This will be an accommodation for the public off the lobby for restroom facilities. Also off the lobby, there's supervision from the dispatchers. The dispatchers would be the ones handling the public, taking inquiries from the public, and they have adjacencies in the front of the building for dispatch. And directly off the public lobby, there is a room for police training, but also that room gets secondary use for community meetings or meetings such as this that you could have within that space, which is off the lobby. And the reason why it's off the lobby is because it could accommodate a public function to come in off the lobby, have access to restrooms, have access to a meeting room, and overseen by the dispatchers. These types of facilities have become very, very important to the police department to try to reach out to the community as part of that welcoming to the community. Most of the time, the public does not want to come to a police facility. It's just some fear, but we don't want to go to the police facility. This facility is a facility that the police department hope the public does want to come to. Having a meeting room here, you can invite the public, and you could go here for good events, memorable things, and not just something that's adversarial. Also off the public lobby, there's an interview space, and that interview space could be used for permitting. Anybody coming in for a bus, driving a bus, they need fingerprints. Gun permits, you need to get permitted. We can handle that off the lobby. And then also small meetings and interview space. Anybody coming in to make a statement, you can do that off the lobby. An area that you see with dark lines around it. All of that dark lines and to the top of the plan, there's a car that's indicated here. We have Sallyport entrance and prisoner processing. I just told you about off the lobby how the public gets into the facility. This is all how the prisoners get into the facility. If you're coming to the facility in the vehicle comes into a garage space, the garage door is closed, and now the officer can safely transport the person from the vehicle into the building. This is not something that's new. This is something that's been going on for a long time, but it's not something that Lakeville's been able to accommodate in their plan currently. So this is a Sallyport. That's the term for this garage, is a Sallyport. From the Sallyport entrance directly into a processing area, and this facility has 2 booking rooms, and this facility has 3 detention cells. One of them has to be handicapped accessible. Yes, we do have to provide handicapped accessible detention cells. And then the other 2 could be used for any age group, any sex. They need to be sight and sound separated because there are statutes about how we can handle adult detainees from juvenile, how we have to handle males from females. All of that's accommodated in the plan. And then going down to the left, we start to get some other office spaces. We have some general offices. We have a lieutenant's office, and then we have evidence storage and file storage as the rest of this Part B. Part A of the plan really is the patrol area. Everything that I just mentioned on Part B really had little to do with the staff. Had to do with the public, had to do with the prisoners. Well, this part of the plan has everything to do with the patrol department and the administration. Now we get to see how the staff enters the facility. And the staff enters the facility from this staff entry point here. And that staff entry point is conveniently located from the points of parking for fleet vehicles. or for staff vehicles. Staff enter the building, they would have close access to locker rooms. Now you'd have properly designed locker rooms for male and locker rooms for female officers. Those would get shared by the reserve officers and the specialists. To the far left, we have sergeant's offices to the far left corner. We have a patrol room, and we have a very modest physical training room. So they can satisfy any physical training requirements to keep fit, a fit department's a good department. So there's a space in the department for physical training. So that's the top part of the plan, the left side of the plan. To the lower level, the lower section of the plan, this is the offices that face back to Bedford Street. These are offices for lieutenant, second lieutenant. This is an office for the chief of police. This is an office for detectives. This is an office for administrative assistant. These are all staff members that are there. We're accommodating current staff in office space to the bottom of the plan. We talked in the space needs assessment a lot about adjacencies. If you had an office and you had the ability to design it, or if you had a space, what does it want to be next to? Well, this plan satisfies all those desired adjacencies. It makes for a very efficient plan, a very functional plan, and compared to what they're in now, it's heavens above what they're in now. So, just quickly, this is that outbuilding. The outbuilding, why do we have an outbuilding? Well, I talked about the 10 vehicles that to the bottom of the plan. This is where 10 fleet vehicles can pull in and have cover. The rest of the outbuilding on the upper portion is all storage. The reason it's an outbuilding is we could build this for a lot less square footage than if we just made the 11,700 square foot building bigger. This is just unheated space. It's going to be heated space, but it's not air conditioned. It's going to be ventilated, but all we're storing in here are found property, bulk evidence, department storage needs, department vehicles. Now, when I talked about fleet vehicles, well, what about the light towers? What about the radar trailers? What about an ATV? What about if they get, another ATV? This is a place to store those vehicles. Found property, what's found property? Most of the time, it's a lot of abandoned bicycles. They need to keep those. Where are you going to put them? You're not just putting them outside. But right now, if you want to know where they are right now, they're in a Conex box, an industrial storage trailer on that site, on their current site. It's not a condition that we want to bring to this facility. But we have an outbuilding which can efficiently and cost-effectively store all that department storage needs. And we made that a separate building. All right, look. What's the look? We have to come up and we have to make all of this architecture. I'm talking with the building committee. I asked the building committee, what's the inspiration for the building? What do we want it to look like? What are we proud of in town? What is it something that we want to emulate? And it was kind of a general consensus that the building in town that people seem to respect and like is the library. This is not far from the library. Just up the street from the library. So what we're trying to do here is trying to respect the architecture of the library without copying the library. You see gabled roofs. You see large window openings. You see trim details. You see, this is the covered entry for the entry piece from the public parking into a covered entry, into the vestibule, into the lobby. These are the windows for the public meeting room. The back of the building is the staff side. We see a Sallyport entrance. We've tried to respect the architecture of the library, and that's really the driving force. We have not, in this plan, copied the coloring of the library per se. So it's not a direct copy, but we've tried to emulate and respect the architecture.
Just curious, where's the tennis facility relative to this property?
The tennis facility This is this elevation on Bedford Street, so the tennis facility would be to the left of the site. The windows that you're seeing in this portion are facing the public parking, and the public parking is facing the entry drive. The back of the facility is facing the parking for the park and the ball fields. I think
That's it for design, yep. I'm gonna steal your mic from you. Let me quickly talk about schedule. So all the while that we've led up to this point, we're still keeping our foot on the pedal. What our schedule shows now is really continuing that design after our town meeting vote. With a positive yes vote, Brian has actually already started assembling his mechanical, electrical, plumbing, and civil engineers. They're well aware of the project, so he's had them up to speed now so that the minute we do get approval, Brian can jump right into design. So he's actually looking at a pretty quick design duration for DD and CD, which we call design development and construction documents. The first phase of design is schematic design, which you saw here tonight. It's already complete, so he'd be jumping right into design development. We see a 16-week duration for that, bringing us out to October 2nd, and then we would go into our bidding period. Typical bidding period is anywhere from 5 to 6 weeks, and what we're going to do is a 5-week bidding period here, where 3 weeks it's out on the street for our filed sub-bids, and 2 more weeks after that, the general contractors use those filed sub-bids to complete their bid. This is Chapter 149 construction. It's a law that you have to abide by bidding. After we're bidding, that brings us to November 6th. And then qualifying and awarding that bid typically takes about a month. You don't get the bid and say, okay, you're awarded the project. There's reviews that we do, background checks sort of thing. And there's a contract process that goes back and forth with the contractor to make sure everything's ironed out and really that the town's protected. So that takes about a month. And then construction right now we're seeing on this building a pretty quick construction duration, about a year. We see this being able to be completed in 12 months. Then we have our closeout, which takes anywhere between 1 to 2 months. We like to start it really when we're at the last few months of our construction duration, so that by the time construction's done, you're pretty much closed out. There will be a punch list phase that's in that closeout phase, but that's typical. And then right now, we're looking at a grand opening somewhere around February of 2019. So I'm going to turn this over now to Rick, and he's going to talk about our budget.
There's no way they can read that.
Yeah.
Somehow I get all the fun stuff. So the budget process has taken several different steps and phases. Initially, we put together some quick square foot costs to get some concept ideas to the town as to where we thought we were going to be with our budget. From that point, after Brian's schematic design was completed, a schematic design estimate was completed by a professional cost estimator, and then the architect as well as the owner's project manager reviewed that, made refinements, and they finalized that. During this process, we've also added some scope that wasn't originally conceived or contemplated, and that would be the water main. Because the police station has to be, is this off?
It's on, speak up.
Okay, all right. The station has to have fire protection, and because of that, the water line has to be a certain size. To accommodate that, a water main, our plan is to have a water main installed from the intersection south of the site up to the site, about 1,100 feet. We looked at the option of tying it through the recreational facility, and we felt that the best option would be running it up Route 18. So that's an additional cost that we've built into this project. As part of the project, we look at the costs, the estimates are done today, and then we apply escalation factors to get us to the point of bidding. And those factors have been added into the project. Every day, a construction project in Massachusetts does not get built, the cost goes up by what some people call inflation, but we call it project escalation. So we've calculated that escalation into October of this year. We've also included some contingencies, because we are at the stage right now where it's schematic design. As you see, it's a wonderful design, and it's great work, but it doesn't have all of the detail that we need to have to go out to bid. So we do add contingencies to that estimate, so that we make sure the contingencies will bridge the gap between the documents that are completed today and the documents that will be completed at bidding. Also to that number, we've added all of the, what we call owner's development costs or soft costs. That would be the architectural engineering, the owner's project manager, commissioning agent that acts on behalf of the town, any third-party estimating we may do, land surveys. The list is rather lengthy, including furniture, radios, dispatch consoles, and so on and so forth down the list. A lot of the numbers are based upon history that both the architect and the owner's project manager have on other projects. Brian is continually designing and building police stations, as is we are representing municipalities for police stations in Massachusetts that are underway right now in design. So we have a lot of historical information that we use as factors when we're putting this budget together. As Brian had mentioned, the auxiliary building, some call it an outbuilding, we call it the auxiliary building as well, is the building that was going to accommodate the cruiser canopy as well as storage. And what Brian was alluding to was the fact that the storage component of that does not need to be of the same standard and quality that the police station would need to be. So in order to save money, rather than having the storage areas in the prime building at a much higher cost, we've created this auxiliary building and saved upwards more than half of the cost per square foot. So it's a better way to design and to construct a facility, understanding your needs of the space and saving money. The total cost of the project, or another item that we've priced out and we've looked at for the committee and for the town, is the option of adding a recreational overflow parking lot to the rear of the facility. I don't know if you want to go to that slide for a moment, we can talk about it. So Brian and his engineers looked at the option of adding a parking structure, not a building, but a parking lot to the back area that is all dirt and potholes and mud puddles during rain events. The facility as it's designed today will not encroach upon the existing parking that's being used by the soccer fields. But we looked at what could be created here with storm drainage systems and paved surface area, and we identified a cost for that at the time we're ever to consider it in the future. So we can go back to the construction if you'd like. The total cost of the project, including the auxiliary building, the ancillary building, but not including the recreational overflow parking, is $8,722,000. The recreational overflow parking would add an additional $760,000 to that number. And at this time, that's not being presented for the town's approval. It's just a concept that we're putting out there for consideration. The total number and the building cost is very comparable with other communities that we're involved with, both from Brian's involvement and our involvement. As a matter of fact, this is on the lower end of cost per square foot than some of the other communities. To give you a very good example, the Marion Police Station and the Norwell Police Station, that were both completed by both Brian's firm and our firm, were far less than, in the comparable costs when they're escalated up from the years that they were completed. Marion was completed in 2009, 2010, and Norwell was completed in 2013. The materials that are being planned and the way that the building has been designed is very efficient from a construction perspective. It's very, very efficient from a space perspective. There's very little circulation area. The way that Brian has designed this floor plan, it maximizes on the uses of the space and rather than a lot of corridors. All of the materials in the exterior building are long life materials. the 50-year roof shingles, cementitious siding, and composite trim, and high-quality windows. So it's a good design, it's an efficient design, and it, based upon the way that the committee has responded to it, as well as the department, it will work for today and for years to come. And this building is not being built just for today, it's being built for years to come. So that having been said, we're open for any questions that you may have, and
One more slide, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I'm not an assessor, but I'll try to do my best to describe this. And Rita, if you want to jump in, please feel free. But in case you can't see that, this is on the town's website, so you can take a look at that there. But for an $8 million debt exclusion for 15 years, the taxpayer max impact on a $300,000 home would be I'm going to use round numbers, $156 a year. For a max impact on a $400,000 home, it would be $208 a year. Max impact on a $500,000 home, $260 a year. Minimum impact on a $300,000 home, $105 a year. Minimum impact on a $400,000 home, $140 a year, and minimum impact on a $500,000 home, $175 a year. So again, that is on the town's website as well.
Okay, folks, we're going to open up to questions. I'm just going to turn these lights on first. Thanks for the presentation. Just to add to that, the reason why there's two amounts of tax impact is because the cost lessens each year within the 15 years. So it starts out at that first figure and it tapers down to that lowest figure that he read in the last year. Do we have questions? Sir, if you could identify yourself for the TV audience at home. I'm doing my Bill Donahue. Stand up. Yeah, please stand up. We got to talk right into this.
John Gregory, Bargelli Road. My question, I'm wondering if in consideration of placing the police department by the fire department, and would there be any savings to that? I mean, it's both emergency. So that's the question. Great facility, looks great. So, thank you.
Is this? Oh, okay. So I should have said this first. We just want to pass this around and have folks sign up for it, and then that way, if we have information relative to this project, we can reach out to you. So the question is, were there other locations considered?
The question was specifically about the fire department.
No, I get it. Who's best suited to answer that? Do you know some of the past explorations into locations?
Yeah, I think the number one would be, the town would have to purchase that property. And I think we looked into various parcels in town, and number one, that's owned by the town, so the town doesn't have to come up with any money to purchase that. So that's a huge cost savings right there. As far as our operations, police and fire are separate. I don't think us being together is going to affect our operations at all.
Sorry, I apologize for arriving late. I'm Mitzi Hollenbeck on the Board of Selectmen. But I don't know if the history was explained in terms of the different options that were looked at between purchasing an existing building, retrofitting an existing building, looking to construct potentially a modular building, and then where we ended up with regard to this construction project.
We didn't go back that far.
Okay.
We're hoping to avoid all of that.
I will ignore that comment. I don't know if you want to explain on it, but.
I don't.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I really need to stand up.
Yes.
Louise Richard, 13 Lakeside Ave. My only question is this: in terms of the staff, the regular employees, the policemen, when you're going to have their desks, are they each going to have their own personal desk? I just think that would be efficient for them. Or are they going to have to share desks?
Sure. No, we'll let
Because
the
you talked
chief
about
answer
the
this one.
lieutenants, the captain,
Right, we'll let him
sergeants.
answer as well, because he understands the flow of the department, how they do do their jobs.
The schematics that Brian has come up with, certain administrative staff have their own office, as they do now. The patrol officers have, it's a patrol room, and they'll have essentially cubicles where they would come in because they're working, you know, alternate shifts. So at some point, if you have 3 officers doing reports, and the next group comes in, and then they'd be able to work in that cubicle as well.
So they'd have to share the space, is what you're saying?
Yeah, we have shared computers. Not everyone has their own. They will have their own storage space where, you know, if you come in and you have to give paperwork to an officer, they have mailboxes, which they would have in this facility, so they would have a storage area.
If you look on side A of the plan, your patrol sergeants here, this is a one desk here, 2, 3, 4, so they're sharing space. And then same thing down here, it's a set of cubicles, they each have their own cubicle, but then when you move into separate offices, you know, they have their own desk as separate offices.
You know, perhaps Brian could talk about a locker. These are not your high school locker room lockers, and you're talking about shared space.
Also, it's important to point out, this whole presentation with the schematic is on the town website, so I know it's not that legible here, but you can go at your leisure and take a look at it and see it all clearly.
The question was brought up about locker space. Everybody in the department, the specials and the reserves, would have an assigned locker. That's not atypical. That's pretty common that officers would have lockers. But what's happening with police facility design now, I'll explain what goes in that locker. The lockers are designed for the officer's needs, and the way that they are constructed, we actively ventilate those lockers, which means we exhaust out the top of the locker. We're drawing air directly from that locker and exhausting it to the outside. Why are we doing that? We're doing that because what happens with the officers during summertime is they'll be out on the road, they're wearing their uniform, but they're also wearing body armor. Because of the weather, that body armor could get wet. They could sweat, and they could put that body armor back in their locker, and then show up the next day, open the locker, pull out their wet body armor, put it back on, they have to wear it, put their uniform over it, and they leave for the day with this wet gear. The smell, the potential for mold, just the event of having to get dressed with that every day is something that they're working through. But if we ventilate that locker and draw air through the locker, we can dry clothing and we can dry their personal items in the locker. So if they can come in on a next shift, at least we give them the ability to have something that's dry. But they're also carrying a lot of gear. They're carrying flashlights, they're carrying radios, they're carrying things that need to be recharged. Those are their personal, they're responsible for those pieces of equipment. So within the lockers, we now put power outlets in those lockers so they can recharge that battery and not have to worry about, is the battery charged in my flashlight if I might need it? They should be responsible to now recharge that battery. Or if they had to leave it out and not unlock in their locker, if they had to leave it out, that's their responsibility. Where did it go? It's now in their locker. They're responsible for that. We also have within that locker a separate firearms locker within the locker. These are things that you don't really think about. You just think about they're going off and doing their job. But they're responsible for their firearms. Do they have to bring that firearm home and have it in their house? Because they have no place to store that firearm in the department. We want to give them the capability of storing their firearm in the department, in the facility, so they don't have the only option then to bring it home and have it in their house where something could happen. So these are the things we have to think about. These are liabilities that we're trying to remedy. And it's just done through a locker. Provide a locker. But if you haven't done it before and you just give them a locker without those amenities within the locker, well, I think we missed an opportunity. So yes, these lockers get to be a little bit more expensive than your standard locker, but there's reasons for that, and there are liabilities that we're trying to remedy. It's a question.
The place where you park the vehicles?
Hang on. It won't work. Sorry. Technical limitations with this format.
Is there any way to put that garage for the vehicles so the officers don't have to run across the parking lot with 3 feet of snow and when there's an emergency in the winter where you just I just go in my garage, I'll hop in my car, go. So.
Yeah, so the question is, why isn't the outbuilding connected to the main building? And I can answer this one in part. When you have it attached, you have to sprinkle it. So there's a code requirement that this building is going to be sprinkled. This one does not need to be sprinkled. So really, it's a much more affordable solution to have it located over there. I mean, that's really was what we came down to in terms of the design. It was a choice, and we tried to make choices that made this as suitable for the department, but also as affordable for the town. Anything else to that?
That's a good answer.
Yeah, I mean, all we're doing is heating that building.
He doesn't ask a question.
Yeah, go ahead. Sherry Barron, Success One Circle. You mentioned central dispatch. Can you explain and define central dispatch for us?
Yes. So central dispatch is the idea that the town will have a central dispatch for police and fire. So currently, the police have their own dispatch. The fire has a separate one. So the idea is to coordinate that and have it be done with one facility. It's an effort really to provide better service, but also to really that's the impetus of it, is to have a better dispatch process. But that's something that both chiefs are on board with, that we're planning on moving forward with as soon as this facility is ready for that.
My only question is this, in terms of all of that locker and everything and all that fancy equipment, is there warranties with that equipment? In other words, so that it doesn't cost quite so much? I'm just wondering, how long is the warranty? Like on a furnace or that ventilation?
Great question.
And are you going to maintain, I work for Asquamsett. Equipment breaks down. You need to have a backup. You need to have money set aside for when that little gadget doesn't function, it's $10,000, you need like this,
Right.
you know, so.
No, absolutely, great question. So in terms of equipment, I mean, we're working with the chief now to do his budget for this upcoming fiscal year, and all of that is accounted for. I mean, they rely on their equipment to a huge degree. I mean, if it's the cruisers, or it's the equipment in the cruisers, or it's the stuff, the gear that they carry, all that stuff's critically important. So the town does its best to support the needs of the department through that. So that answers that piece of it. In terms of a warranty, I mean, is there a...
Well, for your facility, we have specifications that go along with the drawing, so it's drawings and specifications. The minimum warranties you will receive on the entire project is 1 year. So there is a 1 year warranty, but that's the minimum warranty. A lot of the components have extended warranties and maximum warranties. You mentioned roofing shingles. Could be a 40-year warranty on shingles. So it varies whether it's a minimum of a year, maximum could be up to 40, 50 years. You also have to think about service contracts too. With these facilities, the thing that's different about these facilities is they never sleep. They're running. The mechanical systems are running constantly because this facility never goes unoccupied. With office buildings, yeah, everybody goes home at the end of the day. There's time for those systems to rest. With this facility, we have to put in good quality equipment because it constantly is running. So it doesn't last. Typically, the lifespan of this equipment is shorter than a typical office building because it continues to run it's 24 hours a day, and it doesn't go to sleep like an office building would. So yeah, we have to pay attention to the quality of the products and the quality of the equipment so you can get a longer lifespan out of them. But service contracts would assist with that. Are the filters being changed? Are the mechanical systems being serviced? Those would also extend the life expectancy of these units.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I just have one statement. I know I say a lot.
Okay.
I'm in
hold
total
on.
favor
Wait.
of the
No,
police
wait.
station.
Get this on tape.
I just want everybody to know I'm totally in favor.
Right up close.
I just think that the citizens of Lakeville should support the new police station. This has taken way, way too long to get accomplished.
Great, thank you. So, everyone, we have a vote on June 6th for a debt exclusion. I ask that you all participate in that. I ask that you please tell people you know that live in Lakeville that are registered voters to participate in that. And then on June 12th, we have a town meeting where one of the warrant articles is to appropriate money through that debt exclusion to construct this facility. So I ask that you please attend the town meeting for that purpose as well. If anybody has any other questions that they think of, please reach out to Rita at Town Hall. She'll get those questions to the committee. We can answer them. Like I said, on the website, this information is there along with meeting minutes and other information from our police station building committee meetings. I want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. And lastly, Nate Darling wasn't able to be here this evening. He wanted me to explain to everyone that if anybody has a question relative to his oversight or his involvement in this as the building commissioner, to please reach out to him personally, and he'd be happy to talk with them about it. So thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you.